Hello, everyone. Welcome to Linkurious Enterprise 2.10 presentation. My name is Marilyn. I'm Head of Customer Success at Linkurious, and today I'm with Jocelyn, our Head of Product.
Hello, everyone.
So the purpose of this presentation is to give you an overview of the features we have brought to Linkurious Enterprise in version 2.10. Which is currently available in beta on our download center. At the end of the presentation, there will be a Q&A session. You can type your question anytime in the chat, and we will address them during this Q&A session. Just a quick intro. At Linkurious, we believe in beautiful visualization. In fact, you have probably come across us for that reason. But there's more than meets the eye. With powerful analytic capabilities, they empower you to detect key insights and navigate through vast amounts of data with ease. As you know, we love to help you harness your complicated data and enable you to discover connections that may have been missed, so that ultimately you can make more informed decisions. Our mission is to continuously innovate, to help you push the limits of what you can do with graph visualization and analytics technology. The version 2.10 is going in this direction, as we are bringing exciting new features to significantly reduce the clutter and empower you to visualize key and meaningful elements faster than ever before. I'll now go ahead and pass the presentation over to Jocelyn to discuss what's new in our latest release. Jocelyn?
Thank you, Marilyn. So, yes, we're going to be covering what's happened since our last webinar introducing 2.9. And so the outline of this presentation is the following. I'm going to first talk a bit about the Linkurious Enterprise release process, which has changed over the last few weeks and months. We'll also cover then what you may have missed, so 2.9 improvements that have been brought since the last webinar, and we'll cover what's new in 2.10. And finally, I'll be talking a bit about what's coming next. So let's get started with how we change the Linkurious Enterprise release process. We have a release process with where we release new versions on two branches, the stable branch and the beta branch. The stable branch right now is 2.9, so it's 2.9.x because it could right now it's 2.9.9, and we'll release 0.10 in a few days. And we also have releases on the beta branch, which is right now 2.10. So what is new is that now we are releasing new versions every 2 weeks. So there are new things coming up on a more frequent basis. The type of releases we do are bug fixes on both branches, but also now we release new features, preferably on the beta branch. But as you'll see, there will be some exceptions when we think it's safe. And actually, with 2.9.10 that I'll cover at the end of the presentation, you'll see that we have some meaningful improvements coming to the stable branch. So let's start with what happened on 2.9 since it was first released. First, as part of 2.9.1, we released support for Neo4j v4. Then we released support for a key feature of Neo4j v4, which is multi-tenancy. It means that since 2.9.5, you are now able to connect Linkurious Enterprise to multiple graphs in the same instance of Neo4j DB. Also, we resumed support for Cosmos DB in 2.9.5. We were supporting Cosmos DB up until 2.7. We were not able to support Cosmos DB in 2.8, but well, we were able to support it again starting with 2.9.5. We also introduced a new current user variable for the query templates as part of 2.9.6. I'm not going to cover it right now, and we'll have a deep dive very soon on query templates. So if you are interested, you can attend this webinar, obviously, or go look up the documentation. We also improved the scalability for Neo4j search with Neo4j v4.1, and this was released as part of the 2.9.7 release of Linkurious Enterprise. So let's move on to what's new in 2.10. So there are four main evolutions that we are releasing with 2.10. Edge grouping, query templates on edges and edge sets, node edge dynamic sizing, and incremental indexing. So I'm going to go through all of them one by one. First, edge grouping. So what we identified from our customers was that they were complaining about having visualizations that were cluttered by too many parallel edges. For example, when you have multiple transactions between two nodes, between two people, between two companies, it can become pretty quickly very messy. So the demand was, can I show just one edge between two nodes instead of all those parallel edges? I'm going to switch to the demo, and basically I'm going to cover how to group and ungroup edges, how to access the edge details of the edges that have been grouped, how to filter and use the filters when your edges are grouped, and how the edge groups are persisted. So I'm going to switch to the demo. And here we are. I'm going to open the first visualization. I think for those who have attended previous webinars, you are already familiar with this dataset, but I'm going to introduce it quickly for other people. So here we have person nodes. So we have here Aline Royal and Gardinerette. And these persons have bank accounts. So they have this relationship as bank account, connecting them to their bank accounts. So here we have Aline Royal having one bank account and Gardinerette having another bank account. And between these bank accounts, there are these transactions that are shown as has transferred edges. As you can notice, only with a couple transactions here between those three bank accounts, the visualization is already pretty cluttered. And so you can imagine how it would look when you have not like a few transactions, but maybe tens of them or hundreds of them. So we introduced a new feature to enable you to group these edges, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So we added this icon here on the top right, in the top right menu, which is going to open this panel. In this panel, you will find all the edge types that exist in the visualization, and a toggle to enable you to toggle on and off the edge grouping for each edge type. So we are going to focus on the has transferred edge type, our transactions, and I'm going to toggle it on, and all our parallel transactions are going to be grouped. Here we go. So as you can notice now, we only have a single edge between nodes for a given direction. So here between these two bank accounts, there were transactions going from this bank account to that one, and other transaction going the opposite direction. So we have two edges, one for each group. One thing that you can notice is that these edge groups have for caption the name of the edge type and a number next to it. This number reflects number of edges that have been grouped as part of this edge group. So this means that in this group, we have 11 transactions. In this one, we have 3. In this one, we have 5. In this one, we have 5. Also, you can identify that these edge groups have a very different style from our regular edges. This style was, we made sure that it couldn't be confused with regular edges. So we made it bold and black and dotted. This might not be the way you want to represent them. So know that you can change the style of these edge groups in the style sheet. I'm now going to show you how to consult the details within the edge group. So here we have these 11 transactions, and we'd like to know, maybe because at some point in our exploration, we want to have a look at what are the specifics of those transactions. So here to do that, I'm going to use a plugin that was, so the plugin features was introduced as part of the 2.9, version 2.9. And so it's the name of this plugin is a data table plugin. And so I'm going to use a custom action named display transaction details. And this, activating this plugin will open a new page where I'll be able to see tabular format for these transactions. So let's go ahead. So here we go. And we can see here that we have our transactions that are listed, and we have 11 entries. You can go through them. You can export them as CSV. You can edit columns. This is basically the data table plugin. Here we have only 3 properties, I would say: the ID, the amount, and the date. In your use case, you may have many more than that, and they can be displayed all here. So I'm going to close here and get back to our visualization. One thing you may be interested in while you are dealing with edge groups is to filter. So here I'm going to open our timeline, for example, because all these transactions have a date. And here we go. So I guess for those who are familiar with the product already, they know about this timeline. And here we have a histogram, and that is representing the number of transactions for each month. And I'm going to change the upper bound here for the filter. And we're going to see that the numbers here are going to change, and because they reflect the number of transactions that are not filtered out. And you're going to have a look at this one as well, because it contains a single transaction right now, and it's going to be completely filtered out, and the style is going to change. So let's get started. So here we go. We filtered 12 transactions. Some of them was part of this group, so you see that the number changed from 11 to 8. And here we had this transaction. We had a single transaction in the edge group, and since it was filtered out, now the edge shows as is displayed as a filtered edge. And if we keep moving, you're going to see that numbers are going to keep changing, and groups are going to keep disappearing. So I'm going to remove now all filters, and I wanted to say one more thing about these edge groups. Let's say that you are expanding a node, or that, as I'm going to do, you are creating a new transaction, or a new transaction happens between these two bank accounts. You see here that you have a count of 5. So let's create another transaction. Okay, has transferred. I'm going to enter an amount, and I'm going to input a date, and I'm going to save. And as you can see, the edge was successfully created, and it was automatically grouped with the existing edge group. Finally, I'm going to go back to my dashboard, and I'm going to come back to my visualization. And as you can see, the groups are persisted, so they are saved as part of the visualization, like your filters or like your styles. And this also means that when you are sharing a visualization, you're going to share it with the groups activated if they were activated by you. So if you go grouping on a specific edge type, the person you are sharing it with will see these edges grouped as well. That's it for the demo of edge grouping. So I'll resume the presentation. So little recap. First, it's important to notice that edge grouping happens on the visualization side. It doesn't impact your database in any way. It doesn't modify your data in any way. So you can, just enable it, disable it, and basically you are not. There is no risk doing that. Also, edge groups are persisted at the visualization level, which explains why, if you leave and come back, or if you share a visualization, the edge groups will also be shared as part of this sharing. And finally, you can visualize the edge details in a tabular format using the data table plugin. Moving on to the next section about query templates on edge and edge sets. So as a reminder, for query templates, I'm not going to go into full details about query templates. You can, if you are new to that, you can still go to our Linkurious Enterprise 2.7 webinar, or you can attend the next deep dive webinar that is going to happen in the next few weeks. So query templates accepts 3 types of variables: graph inputs, node and node sets, non-graph inputs, text, enum, number, and date. And recently, as I mentioned earlier, we introduced a new type of variable, the current user. The needs for our customer was very basic, saying, can we do the same with edges as we are doing with nodes? And the answer now is yes. And I'm going to demonstrate that. So let's take another visualization. So here I'm going to have a small scenario about following the money. So let's say we are starting with 2 people, John Irwin and Rebecca Schwartz, and somehow we identified that there is a suspicious transaction happening between John Irwin and Rebecca. Maybe because they never transferred money to one another in the past. So as an analyst, one thing I would want to do is seeing if there is any context helping me deciding whether or not this transaction is suspicious. So I might start by expanding this John Irwin node, and here we have a lot of edges. So it's becoming very cluttered already, and so probably not the best way to start my investigation. So I'm just going to go back. from experience, I know that a suspicious transaction in my use case would be, I could confirm that it is suspicious if I can identify that this is just, this is followed or by another transaction that of the same amount, or if it's preceded by another transaction within the last 48 hours or the next 48 hours. So basically, there is this time window of 48 hours before and after the date of the transaction that is of interest to me. So I created create templates here to just do that. So basically, I have this find connected transactions that is going to return only the transactions that were made by John Irwin and Rebecca Schwartz in the 48 hours before and after our transaction here that happened on the 14th of November. So let's go ahead. Clicking this, running this query template, I can see that now that I have 3 transactions happening between John Irwin and Peyton Green, Ryan Fang, and Madeleine Stolz. And if we look at the dates, they are indeed, within 2 days of this 14th of November. So here we have 15th, here we have 13th, and here we have the 14th. And as well, Rebecca Schwartz made 3 transactions with Erin Campbell in this time frame. Now, if we look closer and we look at, for example, the amount, you can see that. So John Irwin transferred $4,502 to Rebecca Schwartz. And if we look at other, here it is. Ryan Fang actually did transactions the day before, that's it, 14 and 13, of exactly the same amount. That looks maybe a little fishy. And now looking at Rebecca Schwartz, I can see that and here it is. There is a transaction happening also between Rebecca Schwartz and Erin Campbell, this time on the 16th, so 2 days after this transaction. So basically what's happening here is that we have Ryan Fang transferring money to Erin Campbell with through the proxy of John Irwin and Rebecca Schwartz. This obviously looks quite fishy. So maybe a next step could be to look at whether there were other transactions between Ryan Fang and Erin Campbell going through maybe other proxies. To do that, I could just, for example, run find shortest path query template. This is beyond the scope of the current demo, so I'm going to stop right here, but I hope this helps understand how this query templates can, on edges, can help make your exploration of the graph faster, as the same way query templates on nodes and node sets have been helping you in the past and will probably help you in the future. Going back to the presentation, so quick recap. What we delivered here is the equivalent on edges of existing capabilities on nodes, and I mentioned deep dive on query templates. This is happening on December 10, and invitations are going to be sent out next week. So make sure to attend this webinar because it's going to be full of tips and practices that will help you better leverage query templates, whether you're already using them or if you are considering using them. Moving on to our next topic, which is node edge dynamic sizing. Quick reminder about the sizing. We up until 210, we had static sizing on ranges for numerical properties, and this could be done from the style sheet. So for example, if you had an amount on some kind of category of nodes, you could say that for an amount from 0 to 10, the size of the nodes would be half the size of a standard node. And then say that from 10 to 1000, the size would be twice the size of a standard node. And if the amount was above 1000, it would be a size of 500%. Our customers were facing the issue that their significant ranges could differ from one context to another. For example, if you are looking at companies in France or in the US, maybe you are going to see some significant difference in terms of what ranges you are looking at. Maybe in one case it could be 0 to 1000, and in the other it could be 0 to 1 million. So you cannot really do here with predefined ranges. So the question was, is it possible to size nodes and edges without going through this definition of ranges? And that's what we brought with node edge dynamic sizing. In the demo, I'm going to show you how to enable dynamic sizing, and I'm going to show dynamic sizing in action. I'm going to move on to another visualization. Oh, I think I got it backward. I'll show you how to configure that afterwards. So here we have people. So these people, they have a score property. It's a numerical property. We have these 5 people. We have Oliver having a score of 10. Could be a risk score, or whatever it could mean for in your use case. We have Ifrain, score of 21. We have Jeffrey, score 38. We have Buster's 55, and we have Victoria 81. We can see here that the nodes are sized according to their to the score value. To show you that it's actually dynamic, I'm going to change the score of Oliver, and I'm going to, whoop, sorry, that's not what I intended on doing. I'm going to make the score of Oliver actually higher than the one of Victoria. So it's going to, let's say I'm going to do it 85. I'm going to edit 85. I'm saving. And here we go. So see, the node for Oliver was automatically resized, dynamically resized, as well as the others. Maybe you notice that Victoria got a little smaller because now it's not the maximum. It's not Victoria, it's Oliver. And as well as the other nodes are resized accordingly. So how do we achieve that? This can be achieved by going through the data source settings. So we are going to go to the style sheet. So here we go, and the style sheet is here in the default styles. And you can notice here that for the item type person, we have so I'm not going to go into the syntax of this style sheet, but you can find help on our documentation. But here the keyword is auto range, and so by adding this auto range on the property score, you get to have this dynamic sizing. That's it for demo. And so quick recap on node edge dynamic sizing. So static sizing on ranges is still available. So now you have 2 options, either static sizing or dynamic sizing. And the dynamic sizing works using linear interpolation based on the value of the property. It's controlled through the style sheets, and it's, you have automatic updates of node sizes when you are adding, removing, or changing the values of a property in the visualization. Moving on to our last improvement, incremental indexing. So here, I'm going to talk about Neo4j and Elasticsearch and how they're connected using the Neo2j plugin. So you may not be concerned by this part. So people that are not concerned are people who are using Neo4j with Neo-search, or people that are using another database than Neo4j. And people that are using Neo4j and Elasticsearch without Neo2j also are not concerned here. So quick recap on the Neo2j plugin. This plugin allows to have the continuous indexing feature. It means that when you add new data to your database, it will be automatically synchronized with Elasticsearch, so that you can search on those items that were added to the database. So this is useful for DBs that are updated frequently. We had issues with Neo2j, so it's yet another moving part as you have to install the plugin. Then it requires configuration. And also, as it is now, it does not support Neo4j v4. So we decided to build our own feature, native Linkurious Enterprise feature, to support, to kind of replace, I would say, Neo2j. This feature is called incremental indexing, and it will index new edits to the data on a regular basis. So whether you are adding data or if you are making changes to the data, you can set the frequency of those indexing, of this recurring indexing. It could be on a daily basis, could be on a weekly basis, or could be even, if you want to have less latency, could be on an hourly basis. To achieve that, you will need to have a last edited timestamp on the property. That's how our feature is going to detect what was changed since the last indexing. And please notice that this incremental indexing mode, I would say, for indexing with Elasticsearch will become the default options in the future. So as you understand, there is an interplay here with Neo4j v4. And so I wanted to get back to what we would recommend based on your situation. How would we would recommend you move on to Neo4j v4 or not? First, let's start with customers that are using Neo-search or Elasticsearch, but without Neo2j. For those, I mentioned at the beginning, you are not concerned, so it means that also you can switch anytime to Neo4j v4. For new customers that are using Neo4j v4 plus Elasticsearch, you can already use 210 with incremental indexing if you need this ability to index incrementally because you have a database that is frequently updated. But for customers that have high quality of service requirements, for example, because you're on production and you are supporting mission critical use case, and if you are using Neo4j 3.5 right now with Elasticsearch and Neo2j, and you are using Linkurious Enterprise 2.9 or below, 2.9.x or below, we recommend that you wait until 2.10 because I mentioned this earlier, but 2.10 right now is the beta branch. So we recommend like we would do in a case that you wait for the stable version of 2.10 to switch to install 2.10 and to switch to Neo4j v4. And we would advise you to get in touch with the customer success team if you are considering this move. Let's move on to our last part about what's coming next. So it will be in two parts here because we are going to keep adding new things to the stable branch, the 2.9, and we're going to evolve as well the beta branch to 10. So let's start with 2.9 improvements. We have the 2.9.10 coming in about 8 days, and this 2.9.10 will contain significant improvements. First, in the form of a Neo4j board connector. So the board protocol is a Neo4j protocol. It has been introduced by Neo4j to, I would say, supplement or replace the HTTP protocol that was used before. And today we are partially supporting this board protocol, and starting with 2.9.10, we will be fully supporting the board protocol. The benefits of that, because this is a real the technical part, but the benefits from a customer point of view here is that now we'll support Neo4j Aura. Neo4j Aura is the cloud version of Neo4j. For all customers that are considering or that are using already this cloud version of Neo4j, they will be able to connect with Linkurious Enterprise to their database on Neo4j Aura. Also, we have identified that with this board connector, the transfer of data is much faster, and so it tends to speed up the indexation when you are using Elasticsearch, and in that case, it can be up to 2.5 times faster. Also, some of our clients were used to use virtual nodes. Virtual nodes are nodes that don't exist in the database, but that can be generated through an APOC procedure. APOC being plugin for Neo4j. So up until Neo4j v3.5, we had no problem displaying those virtual nodes, even though they don't exist in the database. But because of the changes introduced in Neo4j v4 and in their HTTP protocol, we were not able to do that anymore with Neo4j v4. So here in 2.9.10, with this Neo4j board protocol support, we'll be again supporting fully the display of virtual nodes. Also, as another small improvement that is connected to this Neo4j board connector is that we will improve availability for the customers that are using Neo4j clusters. Going on to what's coming up in 2.10. So there's going to be search improvements. First, we're going to add count on categories in advanced search. So when you are doing a search, I would say an advanced search, you can add a filter on the categories. You can filter on the nodes of type of category person or on the nodes of category company. What we are going to add now is that there will be a count of next to this category names, telling you how many results in the search are of each category, helping you explore and understand your data and filter adequately. We'll also keep improving incremental indexing. And also we'll provide compatibility with ES7 across the board, so with Elasticsearch 7, whether you are using Neo4j or Elasticsearch as embedded in Linkurious, or if you are using an external Elasticsearch cluster. Also, we are going to implement the ability to select multiple values in the select list input in query templates. So basically, when you are using an enum input in query templates. So for this one, again, I'm going to advise you attend the deep dives that is going to happen on December 10 if you want to understand and know more about how you can leverage that. And for what's coming next after 2.9.10, we're going to work on alerts. We're going to first add the ability to comment on matches. And also, I wanted to point out the fact that we are going to invest on alerts, and they're going to change quite a bit over the next few weeks and months. So if you are already using alerts, or if you are strongly interested in and you have a use case for that, we'd be very glad to hear from you, because obviously the goal is to help you leverage and this feature and increase the value you can get out of Linkurious. We are going to also be working on plugins, and our goal here, our aim will be to improve the experience of developing a plugin. And so that's it for today and for 2.10. Thank you for being here, and we are going to move on to the Q&A.
Yes, so we do have several questions. We are going to get started with questions about edge grouping. Jocelyn, if you don't mind. Mm-hmm. So first question is about the direction of groups of edges. Here is the question. How is the direction of grouped edges defined if some edges go from A to B and some others from B to A? Is it possible to display a two-direction grouped edge?
So I'm going to just get back to my visualization to, so that I can show things. So here we have two edges, and indeed we have edges in group edge in the two directions, because we have transactions, some that go from here to here and some that go from here to there. For the moment, we are displaying one edge for each direction, and it's currently not possible to have a single edge because direction is important, or at least it can be important. So the answer to the last part is no, we don't plan right now, or maybe we it could be something in the future, but here I would be interested in hearing more about the use case, because I guess with edge groups the clutter is already has decreased a lot, but is it still too much? That would be an interesting question.
Yeah, please get in touch with your customer success manager for this. We'll arrange that conversation. Second question, could you please show us the export feature with edge grouping?
Oh, that's an interesting one, because when you are, I mean, this edge grouping feature is, I would say, the first version of this feature, and it's something that we believe is going to help a lot of our customers, and so it's going to evolve undoubtedly. And one of the areas where we want to know if it will be an issue or not is that right now, if you, for example, if you want to publish a widget, we are ignoring those edge groups. And the same for exports. We are not, yeah, we're ignoring edge groups as it is right now. So if that's an issue for you and you have a use case and you want to share it with us, we'd be glad to hear from you again.
Okay, thank you. Last question about edge grouping. Is it possible to display the list of values of a given property under the merged edge?
Sorry, can you repeat that, please?
The question is it possible to display the list of values of a given property of a group of edge? I think the idea is to, yeah, is what you showed with the data table plugin. And,
okay, yeah, so there is either you can go with the data table plugin and have showed like right click and here have a custom action with a display the transaction details. Right now, when you click on a group, an edge group, you have no property panel, as you may have noticed. We are here on the lookout for your use cases, because what would you want to know about these edge groups? We didn't want to make too many assumptions, so we delivered it in its simplest form, and based on your feedbacks, we're gonna add onto it.
okay. Moving on to a question regarding incremental indexing. The question is, oh no, just before, no, okay. Incremental indexing. Regular indexation prevents the use of Linkurious during the indexation process. Is Linkurious still accessible with the incremental indexing while it's running, basically?
Yes, so the answer is no at the moment. Our assumption, I would say, in a way, is that by indexing on a more frequent basis, and by indexing only the I would say the delta. So if you're indexing on Monday and on Tuesday we'll be indexing not the whole database, which can be pretty long, but only the items that were changed since the last indexing. So there's still Linkurious Enterprise is still unavailable while indexing, but we believe that this using incremental indexing will basically, by reducing the amount of data that needs indexing, it will or it should ease that problem. So if it's still not enough, we still have some improvements for the future to be made, but that could be one of these.
A question about the BOLT protocol. Does the BOLT protocol preserve all the security features of HTTPS?
So here I'm not the expert on BOLT, so I'll be completely humble about the fact that my belief here is that Neo created a protocol that is at least as secure as HTTPS. However, if you are interested in more technical details, our solution engineer might be able to, or could be able to pinpoint where to find the information. But I think you can also find some documentation directly from Neo.
Okay. Again, on this kind of questions, if you need a follow-up, please get in touch with your customer success manager. We'll arrange for you to get the answer you need. I have a last question, which is, will you make a copy of this available for download? I assume your question is related to having this presentation and this webinar available. So if that's your question, yes, you will be able to review this webinar later on. We'll send you the link for this. after this meeting. Okay, one question that just popped in. Can we control which indexes are created by Linkurious in Neo4j? In previous version, all data is indexed, but it was possible to configure it in Elasticsearch. Does this question make sense to you, Jocelyn?
Can you maybe repeat it, because this is yeah.
Can we control
Yep.
which indexes are created by Linkurious in Neo4j? In previous version, all data is indexed, but it was possible to configure it for Elasticsearch.
So here I'm going to interpret, because I'm not completely sure of the because indexes in Neo, I think, would be in Neo. I would assume it's in Neo search, but I'm not entirely sure. So anyway, we are working on better controls to control what is indexed, whether it is in Neo search or in Elasticsearch. So I think the answer is whether it's either one or the other is yes. We are working on it. Okay. I mean, yes or not yet, but yes, we are working on it.
Okay, thank you, Jocelyn. So I think we have addressed all the questions that popped in the Q&A list. You have maybe 30 more seconds to post your question if you want us to address something.
Maybe as people are thinking about the next question, maybe to add on 2 answers I made. We, if you are interested in configuring indexes, we are actually working on it right now. So it could, be part of maybe like the next 2.10 version. So could be as soon as in 8 days. I wouldn't commit on that, but basically that's likely. And also getting back to the board protocol, I would say because I wasn't very clear, my understanding of, but I'm not a security expert, but my understanding of the board protocol is that, it's very secure, because it's basically now the default and the go-to protocol Neo4j relies on, and so I don't. I see no problem, and actually maybe it's advised to use both when you can.
Thank you, Jocelyn. No more questions. Very interesting webinar, and we've reached the end of this presentation. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and for your questions. We really hope that you now have a better understanding of what 2.10 and recent updates to 2.9 are bringing. As I said, this webinar has been recorded and the video will be shared with you in the coming days. Again, if you have some more topics or some more specific questions or situation you would like to discuss with us, you can always get in touch with us through our support or through your customer success manager. Again, thank you for joining and stay safe.
Thank you, everyone.